So what's going on, guys? I'm Black.Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another Zombies Q&A on the channel, the series where I take your questions from the comment section below to do with zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you do go on to enjoy today's video, a like rating is always appreciated. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. But let's get into this. Here we go, and enjoy. Anyway, getting into it, the first question of today is from Daniel328, and you say, "Hey BOA, why do the dragons help us? Shouldn't they be against us if they're also coming from the Dark Ether?" So this is a great question because there are really two different answers that, in my opinion, kind of contradict themselves. Yes, the dragon comes from the Dark Ether, but remember, not everything from the Dark Ether is against us. We also have other things that help us out, such as the mystery box, the weapons on the walls. You guys know all of that by now. So yes, the rocket ship slash dragon does come from the Dark Ether, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad. That doesn't mean it has to be against us. And there are two pieces of intel you can find in the game that sort of give us an answer to this. So the first thing we have is an audio log from Fedorov. This is a random survivor trapped within the Dark Ether, and he tells us his experience with the dragon.
Patrick Fedorov, his writer, Omega Group. Why do I still call myself that? Why do I even keep making these reports? I lost track how long they've been here. Surely it's been years. There used to be more people here. Lost, like me. So many are gone now. Food for the dragon. Yes, a dragon. It is also a rocket ship. Don't even try to make sense of these things anymore. What I know for sure is the dragon must be fed. It demands sustenance. And then it delivers this banquet of souls to the One. I do not like to even speak of the One, but his shadow falls over us all. And we must pay tribute. At first, we sacrificed the weak. Strangers, friends, it did not matter, but then we who still remained began hunting each other. I have to go. It is hungry again. I have to go.
So as you just heard, Fedorov says, even in the Dark Ether, the dragons must be fed. They demand substance. When you've killed enough zombies around them, or I guess anything that has a soul, the dragons will eat them, consume their souls, and then it delivers these banquet of souls to the One. We've heard of the One multiple times in the zombie storyline. There are a few possibilities as to who this is. It could be Dr. Monty, it could be the Shadow Man, it could be Monty and the Shadow Man together, it could be a new figure we haven't seen yet. Is he the controller of the zombies, the leader in the Dark Ether? There are multiple theories I've gone over before, we don't know, but what we can say at least is the One seems to be bad. He is evil, and that's the purpose of these dragon heads. They are attached to a rocket ship so that once the dragons consume enough souls, they are then delivered to the One. So you would think then they are bad. If their purpose is to deliver souls to the One, that can't be a good thing. But in Outbreak, it kind of comes across a little bit different. From this piece of intel from Weaver, in section 3 he talks about the dragons, and by the way, this whole memo is talking about the crates we can find around the map. There are multiple ways we can access them, and feeding the dragon is one of them, and it reads, "Dragon, easily the most unusual. The dragon crate comes from the Dragon Rocket module, a Dark Ether construct that collects essence from infected subjects. The strike team must kill undead targets in the proximity of the module for the essence to be collected. After a predetermined period, the module returns to the Dark Ether, leaving behind a crate. Unlike the portal classification, the quality of this crate is dependent on the volume of essence provided." And then Weaver goes on to say, "All three classifications seem to support your theory. Someone in the Dark Ether is trying to help us. Sometimes their method is unorthodox, collecting essence, trials by combat, but the end result equips our strike team with the tools necessary to survive. The who, how, and why remains a mystery, but there's some comfort knowing that there's someone over there that may be on our side. For now at least." So this is a weird one because these dragon rocket modules seem to have been constructed in the Dark Ether. Their sole purpose was to collect souls, or should I say essence, for the One. Yet we've even got Weaver in this memo telling us that actually it seems like these dragons are put in the Outbreak map. They've arrived here from the Dark Ether to help us because, well, when you feed the dragon, you end up getting a golden crate. So which one is it? Are these dragons bad? Are they good? If they are bad, then why do we get rewarded? And if they're good, then why are they delivering souls to the One? It's strange, and this also brings out multiple other questions. Why does the One need souls? Since we don't know much about him, I can't answer that. And why would we be rewarded for feeding the dragons? Surely the One isn't helping us out, because from everything we've learned about him, he is bad. It is a little bit weird that we'd be rewarded for feeding the dragons. Perhaps it's just some incentive for us to feed the dragons, but it does also feel like there is someone in the Dark Ether trying to help us. And the very last thing I would say, well, we also had dragon heads in Dreisendrache. We fed them zombies as well, although we didn't really know why they were there. We never actually got an explanation. We just fed them, and then when they ate enough zombies, we'd get the bow. But was there a bigger purpose to them in Dreisen? Were they also collecting souls for someone? Dr. Monty maybe? The Shadow Man? Someone else? Where did they come from? Because those ones were stone? I'm a little bit unsure. The next question of the day from Tim says, since the version of Richtofen we have in Cold War was a child in the original timeline, do we know anything about his childhood? Because we do Samantha's. So I guess the answer is no, we don't really know much about Eddie's childhood besides from what the Canorium tells us, and there's also some information in Tag der Toten which I'll talk about in a minute. Compared to Samantha, what we know about Eddie is nothing. Obviously Samantha as a child has been in the storyline since the very beginning back in World at War. She's been a child all throughout COD Zombies up until now, whereas Eddie was only introduced as a child in Black Ops 2 at the end Origins, and even then he wasn't really involved as much as Samantha. So before the first time we saw Eddie, which like I just said was Origins, going off memory he would have been about 10 years old, but we don't know what his childhood was like before that point, before he arrived in Dr. Monty's house. From the Canorium we do learn that both of his parents died, but that's pretty much it. The only other thing that book tells us about Eddie was when Richtofen collected his soul to be brought to Dr. Monty in the house, where it just tells us Richtofen collects Eddie's innocent soul from Dimension 2210, but we know nothing about how he grew up, who looked after him after his parents' death, what events happened during his childhood that caused him to turn out how he was. Since it tells us he was innocent, we can assume he was good back then, because we know certain versions of Richtofen that we have seen are very evil, especially the Ultimus version. I wouldn't say the Primus version of Richtofen was bad, but in the back of his mind, he still had some of those old traits that the Ultimus version had, and that wasn't necessarily his fault. The Ultimus version of Richtofen was corrupted by the Dark Ether. It was the Shadow Man who mainly told him to do all of the bad things he did. The Primus version of Richtofen wasn't corrupted, hence why he was a lot nicer. But the child version of Eddie was innocent. He wasn't corrupted, so we can only assume he's good. And since we haven't seen him so far in Cold War Zombies, although he wouldn't be a child now, well, at one point he was. And the only other thing we're really told about that was from a conversation that we can hear in Tag der Toten between the Primus and Ultimus characters, where they're sitting around the campfire in the forest.
Wouldn't you like to hear a little story? A story you've never heard? A sad story?
Oh, man. Why do you always have to be such a Debbie Downer?
Let him speak.
It's the story of Dimension 2210. The story of my soul. By the way, you're nodding, Nikolai. I can only assume the Chronorium already showed you the whole sorry tale. Well, for the benefit of the peanut gallery, I was just a boy then. An innocent. I was a sensitive child. A lonely child. Orphaned at a young age. I never got to know who I really was. But one day, I learned who I would grow up to be.
What do you speak of, Richtofen?
I had to do it. The Chronorium told me. I had to trick the poor little innocent me into trusting a complete stranger.
Jeez, Richtofen. I don't think I like where this is going.
Me neither, Dempsey. But that's the sad truth of it all. I took my own soul. Before it could ever have the chance to flourish. Is it any wonder I'm the way I am?
How about another drink? I am empty.
So there we learn a little bit more about Eddie Richtofen's childhood. He himself tells us he was a sad child, a lonely child. He was orphaned at a young age, which you'd expect because his parents were killed. And that's kind of interesting because we can also assume he was an orphan in Cold War Zombies. We know that Samantha was, although we don't know the whole story, when she travelled from Tag der Toten to Cold War as a child. She still would have been a child, so somewhere along the early days of Cold War she got put into an orphanage. Since Eddie would have been with her, it only makes sense that he was an orphan in Cold War as well. So it's interesting that he's, well, I guess being an orphan twice now. But yeah, the Primus version of Richtofen speaking here talks about how he had to take his innocent version's life. He had to trick him into trusting him, and then he killed him, collected his soul inside of the key, and well, we know what happened from there. So Richtofen's childhood is very, very sad. You have to kind of feel sorry for him. The child version of Eddie, he was innocent, but even if you look at the Primus version or the Ultimus version, if you think of how he was as a child, sad, lonely, and orphan, you have to feel sorry for even his evil Ultimus version. Like he says, is it any wonder he turned out how he did? So guys, there we go, that is it. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have nothing to do, drop me a like rating if you want to. If not, it's fine. Thank you guys for watching anyway. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye.